When Daniel Walsh, a self-made millionaire, tossed his black credit card onto the counter, it wasn't arrogance. It was exhaustion. His maid, Rosa, had been with him for 8 years, quietly keeping his mansion spotless while he buried himself in business. That evening, he noticed her shoes, worn thin, the sole flapping. He sighed. "Take my card, Rosa. Buy yourself something nice. No limits." The next morning, Rosa returned the card with a folded receipt. Daniel glanced at it, expecting designer shoes, a handbag, something extravagant. Instead, the slip read, "Children's Hospital Medical Equipment Fund." Confused, he asked, "Why didn't you buy for yourself?" Rosa smiled softly. "I did. My son died here years ago because they didn't have enough machines. I promised, if I ever could, I'd help other children live." The words struck Daniel harder than any boardroom battle. For years, he measured wealth in profits, stocks, luxury. But here was a woman earning pennies compared to him, yet richer in compassion than he'd ever been. That evening, he visited the hospital himself. When he saw the machines already ordered under Rosa's name, something in him cracked open. For the first time in decades, tears fell freely. Daniel didn't just double Rosa's donation, he funded an entire new wing. And in that moment, he realized true wealth wasn't counted in dollars, but in lives touched. Daniel Walsh was used to power. The kind of power that came from money, from walking into any room and knowing he could buy it all. But one night, as he passed through his marble hallway, he noticed something small. His maid Rosa, quietly polishing the floor, wearing shoes that looked like they'd survived a storm. "Here," he said, pulling out his sleek, limitless credit card. "Get yourself something. Anything. Don't hold back." She hesitated, then nodded. The next day, Rosa returned, handed him the card, and left a receipt on the counter. Daniel picked it up absent-mindedly. His eyes narrowed. It wasn't from a boutique, not a luxury store. It read, "Children's Hospital, donation, $7,842. His chest tightened. "Rosa, why?" She looked at him with calm eyes. "When my son was sick, they didn't have enough machines. I couldn't save him. But maybe another mother won't have to lose hers." The silence after those words was deafening. Daniel, who had bought yachts and diamonds without flinching, suddenly felt the weight of a true purchase. Not indulgence, not vanity, but hope. That night, Daniel drove to the hospital himself. He saw new equipment being delivered, breathing machines, heart monitors, bearing Rosa's name. His throat burned as tears blurred his vision. For the first time, money felt small. The next morning, Daniel signed a check that would build an entire pediatric wing. Not for his name, not for legacy, just because Rosa had reminded him of something he'd forgotten. The greatest wealth is the one that saves lives. Daniel Walsh had everything a man could dream of: cars that roared like thunder, a mansion with more rooms than he could remember, and a bank account that never ran dry. But happiness? That was harder to buy. One evening, after a long day of calls and contracts, he caught a glimpse of Rosa, his maid. She'd been with him for nearly a decade, never asking for more than her wages. But tonight, Daniel noticed her shoes, split at the seams, her feet aching with every step. Impulsively, he slid his credit card across the counter. "Rosa, get yourself something you deserve. No budget. Go spoil yourself." She took it quietly, eyes lowered. The next morning, she returned with a simple receipt. Daniel scanned it, expecting designer brands. Instead, the words cut deep. "Donation, Children's Hospital." He stared. "You didn't buy for yourself?" Rosa's voice was steady, but her eyes glistened. "I did. My son passed away there. They couldn't save him because they lacked the right equipment. I promised I'd help if I could. Yesterday, I finally could." Daniel felt something shift inside. For years, he'd defined generosity by charity galas and giant checks that doubled as PR stunts. But Rosa's quiet sacrifice, a woman with so little giving all she had, made him feel poorer than he ever had before. That night, he visited the hospital himself. Children laughed in brightly painted hallways. Nurses unpacked brand new machines. And for the first time in years, Daniel cried. The next day, he didn't just thank Rosa. He joined her cause, pledging enough to transform the hospital forever. Because Rosa had reminded him, true wealth isn't what you keep, it's what you give. You know how sometimes the smallest moments completely flip your perspective? That's exactly what happened to Daniel Walsh, a millionaire who thought he had life figured out. One evening, Daniel noticed something he'd never paid attention to before: his maid Rosa's shoes. The soles were peeling, the fabric worn down to threads. Without thinking twice, he handed her his credit card and said, "Go buy yourself something nice. Don't hold back." She gave a polite nod and left. Honestly, Daniel didn't think much of it. Maybe she'd splurge on a designer bag or finally treat herself to luxury shoes. After all, that's what he expected people to do when they suddenly had access to money. But the next morning, Rosa handed the card back with a single receipt. Daniel glanced at it and froze. Children's Hospital, $8,000 donation. He blinked, confused. "Rosa, why would you spend it there instead of on yourself?" Her answer was quiet but powerful. "Because my son died there years ago. They didn't have the equipment to save him. If this money helps another child live, that's the only gift I want." That hit Daniel harder than any business loss he'd ever faced. Here was a woman who earned so little, yet gave more than he ever had, because she gave from her heart. Later that night, Daniel visited the hospital himself. He saw the equipment being delivered, the hope it carried, and suddenly, all his wealth felt empty. So he wrote a check, not for a car, not for a watch, but for an entire new pediatric wing. Because Rosa had reminded him, and maybe this is a reminder for us too, the best things we buy in life aren't for ourselves. Daniel Walsh had lived his whole life chasing numbers, stock prices, profit margins, net worth. To the outside world, he was the picture of success. But inside, something was missing. Then came a night he would never forget. He noticed Rosa, his longtime maid, walking through the hall with a slight limp. He glanced down and saw her shoes, thin, torn, barely holding together. A pang of guilt struck him. Without overthinking, he pulled out his credit card. "Rosa, buy yourself something new. Anything you want. Don't hold back." The next morning, Rosa returned with the card and a folded receipt. Daniel opened it, expecting luxury brands. Instead, the printout read, "Donation, Children's Hospital, Medical Equipment Fund." His heart skipped. "Rosa, you spent it all on this." She nodded gently. "Years ago, my son died there. They didn't have the equipment to save him. I swore if I ever could, I'd help other children live. Yesterday, I finally could." Daniel was stunned. He had spent millions chasing happiness. And here was a woman of humble means teaching him the true meaning of wealth. That night, he visited the hospital. He watched as doctors received new life-saving machines. He saw hope flicker in the eyes of parents. And for the first time in decades, tears fell down his face. The next day, Daniel made a decision. He funded an entire new pediatric wing in Rosa's honor. Not for headlines, not for praise, but because kindness had finally broken through his walls. And he realized something powerful. Real wealth isn't measured by what you own, but by the lives you change.